So, we are saying that the mental domain is full of archetypes open pairing like those hypothesized by Jung in terms of the collective unconscious closed pairing and are available for everyone to access. Clearly, a new rat trick is of interest only to rats, but in principle any human could access the details of the same trick open pairing though who would want to close pairing. The archetypes are not fixed, they are dynamic and can mutate. Although all human cultures entertain the archetype of the hero, the precise details vary from culture to culture. That is, the archetype exists in numerous mutated forms and people will tune into the mutation most appropriate to them. All of the information we could ever possibly want is available to us via the mental domain. The most intuitive of us have the easiest access. Intuitive people can pluck ideas seemingly out of thin air. So what is intuition? It is defined as knowledge arrived at spontaneously, without conscious steps of reasoning. That's exactly what it would be like to tune into the forms. Sheldrake includes behavioral and social fields in his concept of morphic fields. We can imagine that ideas or social trends that take off, that go viral, that capture the zeitgeist, are perfect examples of powerful morphic fields into which many people are tuning. The trends are almost in the air. When the tipping point is reached, a morphic field becomes so strong that almost everyone tunes in, whether they want to or not. We could conceive of Christianity and Islam as forms or morphic fields that achieved overwhelming support at one time or another, and generational brainwashing has kept them in force millennia later despite the fact that they are preposterous. Cultural forms / morphic fields open pairing such as religion's closed pairing can be immensely successful without being remotely true. Humanity's tragedy is that it chooses to tune into many of the worst options available. Sensing and feeling types invariably reject everything rational. They are an ongoing brake on humanity's enlightened, rational progress. Mathematics: the laws of mathematics are universal. Simple basis functions are universals. Complex functions are dialectical, dynamic universals, associated with particulars, with which they are in a feedback relationship. Homo sapiens v Neanderthal, each has its own species DNA. The DNA is very similar in each case, but different enough to constitute two different species. The DNA for each species can be considered a different dialectical, dynamic universal. Memory. It is not possible to demonstrate the isolated localization of a memory trace anywhere within the nervous system. Limited regions may be essential for learning or retention of a particular activity, but within such regions the parts are functionally equivalent. Carl Ashley. If all conscious experience is simply an accompaniment of, or runs parallel to, the morphic fields acting upon the brain, then conscious memory, like the memory of habits, must depend on morphic resonance from past states of the brain. Neither conscious nor unconscious memories would be stored within the brain. Rupert Sheldrake. Memory is one of the greatest mysteries of the human condition. Where are memories stored? How are they stored? Why are they so susceptible to modification? One productive way to think of memory is to regard each memory as a mathematical function stored in the mental domain. It can be accessed whenever you want. The trouble is that it's not some playback function that provides perfect reproduction every time. You actually interact with your memories and subtly and sometimes not so subtly alter them. This means that you change the mathematical function. So next time you recall the memory, you are remembering the altered memory rather than the original one. You may not wish to remember some things at all, so these are repressed. It has been found by some researchers that after training rats to perform certain tasks, implying that the knowledge of how to perform tasks is stored somewhere in the brain, it has proved possible to cut out vast chunks of the rat brain without affecting the rat's ability to execute the task. No matter what parts of the brain the researchers removed, they could not eradicate the instructions for solving the task. This is strongly suggestive that memories are somehow diffusely spread across the brain, or, more likely, are not present in the physical brain at all. Researcher Karl Pribram regarded the memory as a holographic system. He argued that just as every part of a holographic film contains the information pertaining to the whole, every part of the brain contains the whole memory system. It isn't that the world of appearances is wrong, it isn't that there aren't objects out there, at one level of reality. It's that if you penetrate through and look at the universe with a holographic system, you arrive at a different view, a different reality, and that other reality can explain things that have hitherto remained inexplicable scientifically: paranormal phenomena, synchronicities, the apparently meaningful coincidence of events. Karl Pribram. In Illuminism, all memories are asserted to be stored as mathematical functions in the mental domain, so are not tied to any physical locations, although there may be mappings between specific brain locations and particular memories. Although if these mappings are destroyed, the mappings can be re-established in new brain locations. To that extent, the holographic metaphor is highly appropriate. Memories are dynamic rather than static forms, hence can be amended and manipulated. False memories can be constructed. What is our aim? To have religion, science, philosophy, psychology and even the paranormal treated as branches of mathematics, since religions such as those of Abrahamism have no mathematical content, they would be discarded as literally irrational nonsense. All philosophical concepts would be matched to mathematics, and those that could not be converted into a mathematical form would be rejected. Psychology becomes the study of the interface between objective and subjective mathematics. As for the paranormal, it can be seriously studied in relation to the singularity and Sheldrake's morphic resonance theory. All the junk elements that have nothing to do with mathematical reality can be discarded for the nonsense they are. We can move forward on all fronts on a united mathematical basis, the surest possible, and indeed only, foundation of true knowledge. Mathematics is it. There's nothing else. Many atheists describe religion as a con trick to delude us that death is not the end. Yet it has always been a feature of Eastern religion and Western Gnosticism that, in fact, birth is not the beginning. Where were we before we were born? According to atheists, we were nowhere before we were born and we will return there when we die. According to the Illuminist monadology, we are eternal. Each birth, life and death is literally just a phase we are going through as we evolve towards the maximum actualization of which we are capable. And, for the best of us, we can go all the way to divinity. To use Aristotelian terminology, we can become pure form, completely divorced from matter. We can exist as a divine monad, a point of infinite capacity with complete knowledge of the mathematical universe. Never forget, monads guarantee that you cannot die in any absolute sense, but you will certainly die in a relative sense. In fact, you will die countless times, just as you will be born countless times, and you will keep learning and growing and becoming more powerful with each new life lived. You are a participant in the most remarkable journey of all, towards apotheosis. Perceivers and their perceptions. Extension, mass and motion are no more things than images in mirrors, or rainbows in clouds. Anything in nature apart from perceivers and their perceptions is invented by us, and we struggle with chimeras created by our own minds, as if with ghosts. Leibniz. In philosophy, a phenomenalist is an advocate of the position that nothing exists apart from perceivers and their perceptions. Phenomena. A realist is someone who argues that a real world underlies our perceptions, that is, our perceptions are based on fact, not fiction. They are not imagined but correspond to things that are actually there. Although realism accords with common sense, it can never be proved. Most scientists are realists, but science itself cannot be proved. We accept as evidence of science's validity the fact that it gives the right answers. Yet the correct answers do not in any way prove that perceptions are based on real things. In Kant's philosophy, things as they are in themselves are completely unknowable, yet there is nothing at all in Kant's philosophy to prevent scientists getting the right answers when they analyze Kantian phenomena. In fact, the whole system is set up to guarantee that outcome. The success of science is irrelevant to whether a material world is out there or not. It cannot in any way be cited as proof of materialism. In fact, we have hopefully shown that it is rather more likely to be proof of idealism. Leibniz's system, hence that of the Illuminati, is based on an infinite number of perceivers monads, minds, souls but all of which are initially unconscious. So, what are they perceiving? Are they living in their own little dream world, with no connection with the perceptions of any other monads, or do they all cooperate to create an infinite universe which is the same for all of them? That is, it's an objective universe. Illuminism is based on the latter view. The only difference between the monads is that they all see this common universe from their own unique perspective. Every spectator at a football match is watching the same event, but every one of them is seeing it from their own unique angle. The material world, full of material things including human bodies, is the equivalent of the football match. All of the monads are watching it perceiving it, albeit unconsciously, from the mental singularity Yet, remarkably, they can perceive it consciously only by becoming the footballers on the field. That is, they have to become linked to physical reality through a body. Only God can be conscious yet completely disembodied. Anyone who achieves gnosis, complete enlightenment, becomes God and escapes from the cycle of reincarnation that keeps plunging souls into bodies. The monads build a common, objective universe through the only mechanism possible: mathematics. All monads come inbuilt with the same mathematical laws. All that is required for a universe is for all monads to occupy a different position in terms of Cartesian coordinates and for them to emit mathematical waves energy into this common Cartesian arena. By that fact alone, an objective universe is created and every monad has its own unique view of it. We therefore have infinite perceivers monads an infinite objective mathematical universe composed of infinite energy from monads moving through an infinite Cartesian coordinate system comprised of monads This universe is objectively real. The monads perceive the reality all of them have created amongst themselves mathematically: they do not perceive individual universes unique to each of them, or some universe created for them by God as in Bishop Berkeley's philosophy The perceivers perceive a real world of which they contribute an infinitesimal part, but which is otherwise completely independent of them. It truly is an objective universe. Leibniz has thus brilliantly reconciled phenomenalism and realism. There are no mysterious and unknowable Kantian noumena. Each monad has a perfect understanding of the world because each monad is based on exactly the same mathematical laws that govern the real universe. Unfortunately, the monad's infallible knowledge is unconscious. Consciousness actually has the effect of distancing us from the mathematical universe. We become far more preoccupied with feelings, desires and will. Yet a few brilliant people, like Leibniz, are able to consciously probe the mathematical laws of existence. These are the individuals in whom mathematics is achieving consciousness of itself. They are gods. Illuminism might seem bewilderingly complex to non-mathematicians, but it is really exceptionally simple. It's all about an infinite number of mathematical points, each of which contains an infinite number of mathematical waves energy These waves can interact and build up exceptionally complex mathematical waves on the basis of the addition of much simpler waves. This is evolution. This is the universe's objective, ontological mathematics, and nothing besides. It is impossible for the universe to be explained in any other way. Mathematics is embedded in reality because mathematics is reality. Any opponents of Illuminism are faced with the insurmountable problem of explaining why reality is so mathematical if it is not inherently based on mathematics. How could mathematics co-exist with non-mathematics? It's impossible. It's the classic Cartesian dualism problem. If we regard mathematics as a substance, then there can be no other substance. It would be impossible for any other substance to interact with the mathematical substance. How would they communicate if not mathematically? How could mathematics be created? It's impossible, ergo it must always have existed. Illuminism explains everything, and it does so via mathematics alone. No other system of thought can achieve what Illuminism has. The most important fact to grasp concerning Illuminism is that it involves two aspects of mathematics: objective and subjective. Music, a quintessentially mathematical subject, provides the best metaphor for mathematics. Music can be broken down into its component waves, objective analysis, and it can be experienced emotionally, subjective analysis, Everything is like this. Mathematics is perceived both objectively, the scientific, material world, and subjectively, the mental world of feelings, desires, impressions, ideas, intuitions, What could be simpler? What is free will? It's our ability to introduce our own, self-generated mathematical signals into the objective world. When I choose to raise my arm, I have impacted on the physical world through my own actions, not through any imposed on me. I am the causal agent. The universe didn't cause my arm to move, I did. How can I raise my arm at all? Because my mind is mathematical, my body is mathematical, and when I instruct my arm to move, I am doing so by issuing a mathematical signal. A paralyzed person is someone whose mind and body are no longer properly connected mathematically because of a physical damage to the body that has screwed up the necessary mathematical protocols that allows the mind to control the body. A godlike human would be able to repair himself, but there are so few gods. Souls and soul energy, that's all there is. Souls are the basis of ontological mathematics. Souls are mathematical points. Ancient Gnosticism. Gnosticism does not teach that there are two separate physical universes, one containing the true God and another created by Satan. Rather, Satan's universe exists within the greater universe of the true God. In modern terms, the Big Bang represents a temporal event within a pre-existing, limitless universe. The universe of the Big Bang has a beginning and an end, but the universe enfolding it does not. The Big Bang universe is expanding, but it won't go on expanding forever. It will be returned to the greater universe of which it is a mere part. The true God, the God of mind, always defeats the demiurge Satan, the God of matter Hyperborea, the land of the Illuminati. Neither by land nor by sea shalt thou find the road to the Hyperboreans. Pindar, Illuminatus Hyperborea: the perpetually illuminated paradise beyond the north wind, where Apollo, god of reason, spent his winters. Illumination, the religion of the Illuminati, is the world's only rational, mathematical, scientific and philosophical religion. We condemn all religions of faith, superstition and irrationality. We condemn the slave religions of Judaism, Christianity and Islam that worship a torture God who orders fathers to kill their children and revels in sending those who disobey him to eternal hellfire. We condemn all prophets, holy books and messiahs. As Kafka said, the Messiah will come only when he is no longer necessary. He will come only on the day after his arrival. He will come, not on the last day, but on the very last. No one's coming to save us. We must save ourselves. We condemn all those who claim that human beings are not potential gods. God is not outside you, He is you. God did not create the universe: the universe created God. The first God, Abraxas, is the divine template. We all have the opportunity to join Abraxas in a community of gods who know everything and have absolute power. Moreover, this can be proved as a matter of science, philosophy and, above all, mathematics, the sole source of absolute truth. Number rules the universe. Common motto of the Pythagorean school. What happened to Pythagoras's mysterious secret society, whose roots extend far back to the dawn of human civilization and whose ancient adepts included Solomon the Apostate, the genius who heroically tried to kill Jehovah, the monstrous torture god? It became known as the Illuminati, the Enlightened Ones, and it has survived to this day, despite relentless Abrahamic persecution. Mithraism, alchemy, Hermeticism, the Gnostic religion of the medieval Catholic heretics, the outlawed Knights Templar and the original anti-establishment Freemasonry. Nothing like pro-establishment modern WASP Freemasonry were all guises of the Illuminati. The Illuminati are humanity's true hope and light, the voice of the Enlightenment. Join the army of light and reason. The only sacred text is mathematics, the language of God, of existence itself. This is the most complex series of books ever written, bringing Pythagoras, Leibniz and Hegel completely up to date. No series in history has ever analyzed the nuts and bolts of existence more exhaustively than this one. Our promise to all intelligent people is that the God Game series will reveal to them the secrets of the innermost workings of existence, without the need for any creator. We will show exactly how existence can be configured in one way and only one way, via what we call ontological mathematics, the mathematics of existence. We will show the big picture of how everything can be explained by a single grand unified theory of ontological mathematics, embracing religion, science, philosophy, psychology, sociology and even the paranormal, which isn't paranormal at all. The universe is irrational, not an irrational place, and that means that any rational mind can work out all of the rational principles by which the universe operates. There is no mystery at all. Everything has a rational solution. Illuminism explains everything. It has a sufficient reason for everything. It doesn't need to appeal to faith or revelation. It doesn't look to anything external to the universe. All of the answers to the universe lie within it. The universe is the perfect self-building system. It requires nothing else. Above all, it requires no creator. The concept of the creator is the most ludicrous ever proposed and wrong in every way. It's undeniable that the Illuminati has been turned into a toxic brand by the highly effective propaganda of our enemies. That simply shows the extent to which they fear our message. In fact, in normal circumstances the Illuminati never directly refers to itself as the Illuminati precisely because of the hostility to the name, and it has always been inherently secretive because it has been historically subject to regular persecution. The Armageddon Conspiracy website was established to set the record straight, but we are under no illusions that most people instantly switch off or become angry as soon as they hear the word Illuminati. Pythagoras. Pythagoras equals son of heaven. Illuminati equals sons and daughters of heaven. Pythagorean Illuminati communities: the school of gods, the training ground for divinity. Pythagoras had astonishing mathematical intuition. It was said that he could do elaborate calculations with almost no conscious effort. Like some modern day savants, he could imagine calculations as landscapes, and, as new numbers were introduced into the calculation, the landscape changed. Just by looking at the landscape, he could see the results of the calculations emerging. Numbers appeared to him like physical objects. Imagine doing calculations where someone reads out two long numbers to you, asks you to multiply them and then to divide by another long number, and the answer simply appears right before your eyes with no mental arithmetic required. The answer presents itself, and you need only speak it aloud. Moreover, you're always right. Awesome, right? It was said that Pythagoras responded emotionally to numbers, patterns and shapes. He could feel them, sense them, and see incredible beauty in them. In the present day, there are examples of people who can see the number pi as a great panoramic landscape and read off large numbers of its decimal places. They don't remember these numbers, they see them. They just read off the numbers they see in their mind as they travel through the landscape of pi. For such people, each number has a distinctive shape and texture. Often, the numbers have a color or they provoke a feeling or a sensation such as a smell. This mixing up of mental ideas with sensory information and emotions is known as synesthesia. Pythagoras was almost certainly a person with an exceptionally unusually wired brain. Such people are often those who see much further than others, who perceive patterns invisible to others. They are the people who can change everything. "Give me a place to stand and I can move the world," said Archimedes. Give people new ways of viewing the world and they will move it that way too. Aethalides was a son of Hermes and Eupolemeia, a daughter of Myrmidon. He was the herald of the Argonauts, and had received from his father the faculty of remembering everything, even in Hades. He was further allowed to reside alternately in the upper and in the lower world. As his soul could not forget anything even after death, it remembered that from the body of Aethalides it had successively migrated into those of Euphorbus, Hermotimus, Pyrrhus, and at last into that of Pythagoras, in whom it still retained the recollection of its former migrations. Wikipedia. In the ancient world, Pythagoras was said to be a reincarnation of Aethalides, son of Hermes. The god Hermes was the herald of the gods and the messenger between gods and humans. Hermes offered his mortal son a gift: anything except immortality. Aethalides asked for an eternal memory so that he might remember, through death, all of his reincarnations. Pythagoras said that after Aethalides, he was Euphorbus, a Trojan hero killed during the siege of Troy by the Spartan king Menelaus, husband of Helen of Troy. Then he was Hermotimus of Clazomenae, an ancient Greek thinker said to have been the first to propose the idea of mind as the cause of change. Mind was the active principle of life, and matter passive. According to one story, Hermotimus' soul could depart from his body during sleep, and go on trips out-of-body experiences. His wife betrayed his secret and his enemies burned his body while he was asleep, leaving his soul in a limbo Hades where he learned incredible secrets of existence. During this time, his soul entered animals and plants. Later, he became Pyrrhus, a humble fisherman of Delos, and then he was reborn as Pythagoras himself, beloved of Apollo. So, Pythagoras was the son of a god and descended into hell rather like the later Mr. Yehoshua ben Yosef. According to calculations, Pythagoras reincarnates every 216 years, and is due back in 2026, the nth coming. For Pythagoras, the number 1 was the number of intelligence and 2 of opinion. Two sides to every story. Pythagoras was the first advocate of meritocracy. Or rather the intellectual aristocracy ruled by the best, later championed by Plato. Pythagoras spoke of this life consisting of 3 kinds of people that he compared to those who went to the Olympic Games. 1. The vulgar merchant class and consumerists, buying and selling. 2. The competitors, caught up in the conflicts of life, and preoccupied with status. 3. The contemplative spectators, the philosophically minded, well on their way to escaping the cycle of reincarnation and attachment to the physical world. Pythagoras had a meritocratic view of the soul. The more talented it was, the more intelligent, the quicker it was promoted to higher stages of soul development. Prodigiously intelligent, Pythagoras was preoccupied with reconciling reason, mathematics, philosophy, science, religion and mysticism, and this has always remained the core of the Illuminati's mission. Pythagoras, when he was the leader of the Greek settlement of Croton in southern Italy, declared war on the super-rich, decadent and corrupt Sybarites, an act that proved a great inspiration to Adam Weishaupt in later times. The Pythagorean Illuminati were the world's first formal secret society. They lived in a community, and at sunset every day they were required to consider their efforts for the day and ask themselves: (1) What good have I done? 2. What evil have I done? And what recompense shall I make? And 3. What have I omitted to do? These are 3 questions that everyone ought to be asking themselves every day in the present. Pythagoras was the effective inventor of what we now call mathematics. He was the first to use the terms mathematics that which is learned and philosophy love of wisdom . Pythagoras wandered for many years, studying amongst the Egyptian priests, the Chaldean occultists, the Persian magi and the leading sages of Greece. He was often called the son of Apollo. He presented a Sermon on the Mount and, on the strength of it, 800 people left their homes and families to join his secret society based in a commune in a Greek colony in southern Italy. Many thought that he was semi-divine, a higher being situated between men and the gods. He proclaimed that heaven is number and harmony. He treated women and men equally, virtually unprecedented in that ancient era. All property was held in common. There were no rich and no poor. Divisions were on the basis of merit alone. Why did the clowns of Abrahamism triumph rather than the genius of Pythagoras? Because humanity is a stupid, debased race. The divine triangular symbol of the tetractys 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10 also had a secret reference to 0 for the highest initiates of the Illuminati: 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. That is, 0 was the magic quintessence, the unseen fifth element that bound the 4 other elements: earth, water, fire and air. The tetractys was therefore the symbol of all that is: the entire universe and all of its contents. 10 is the number of existence, and of course, it contains the 2 numbers of the binary system: 1 and 0 . The basis of computing. Moreover, 1 the unit and 0 are the 2 numbers associated with the monad, the fundamental unit of existence. The tetractys is therefore also a means of referring to Leibniz's monadology. Mind equals 0, matter equals 1. People with a severed corpus callosum and the band of fiber connecting the 2 hemispheres of the brain or born with little or no corpus callosum, are said to be able to read 2 books simultaneously, one with each eye. Each hemisphere operates independently like a separate brain . Imagine if all human beings could develop the ability to use their brain hemispheres in different ways depending on the circumstances: 1 to suppress the corpus callosum and thereby separate the hemispheres, thus generating 2 separate, independent brains with very different capabilities, or 2 enhancing the functioning of the corpus callosum to connect the hemispheres and create 1 ultra-powerful brain, or 3 deactivating either hemisphere to allow 1 hemisphere, full brain without any distraction or disruption from the other, with such an ability to transform how we think and feel, how we sense and intuit, how we respond to mythos and logos. Could we not become the gods themselves? our brain architecture, and what it means for our mental function, is the most important factor in our journey to the glittering stars of the celestial plane. Our left brain is the center of our mortal consciousness and our right brain is the center of our unconscious, linked to our immortal soul and the rest of the monadic universe. We have to release the staggering power of the right hemisphere, but in a controlled way that brings it under the rational, conscious control of the left brain. That is the route to divinity. Sink or swim. What does not kill me makes me stronger. Nietzsche. This is one of Nietzsche's most famous statements. People use it all the time, but almost never realize that Nietzsche was its author. In a universe of reincarnation, where we never truly die, it logically follows that we keep getting stronger and stronger with each new life we lead. If nothing can kill us, then we become infinitely strong. We become God. We often hear about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder open paren, where a terrible trauma of the past haunts us in the present and undermines our ability to function properly close paren, but we rarely hear of its opposite PTG: post-traumatic growth. With PTG, a person who has survived some catastrophic event, even if horribly injured, feels an astonishing new lease of life and love of life. The fact that they almost lost their life makes them now see it as infinitely precious and they cherish every moment of it. They find it wondrous, an amazing gift, and they become radically self-fulfilled, using every second to its maximum. Is it not astounding that a traumatic event that destroys some people mentally can be the trigger for remarkable growth and contentment in others? We have to learn the secrets of the latter group and apply them to the former group. Mysterium Cosmographicum, the cosmographic mystery. It has been solved by the Illuminati. The Illuminati say to the whole world, welcome, for the first time in your lives, to reality. Prisca Sapientia equals sacred wisdom equals Illuminism. Consciousness bodies act as if there were no souls, and souls act as if there were no bodies, and both act as if each influenced the other. Leibniz. Consciousness equals when reason becomes autonomous, an active agent. Consciousness belongs to the phenomenal world of becoming, but our transcendental ego, our higher self, is located in the noumenal domain outside space and time, and therein lies the mystery of life and death. Our phenomenal self is sure to die, but it is linked to a noumenal self that cannot die. Our mind straddles the two domains of noumenon and phenomenon, transcendence and immanence. In fact, it is the decisive link between the two domains. Monad, our transcendental ego, our higher self, our immortal self, our unquenchable, eternal life force. Genius is derived from the Latin word meaning the guardian and guiding spirit that each person is given at birth, and to whose inspiration his original ideas are due. In ancient Gnosticism, the genius was your own higher self. We might now call it your transcendental ego, your noumenal, immortal self. Dreams, sleeping consciousness. Dreams are outside space, time, logic and causality. Dreams provide us with our best channel to our noumenal genius. We can speak of waking consciousness directed by space, time, causality and direct sensory input, versus sleeping consciousness, where space, time, causality and direct sensory input are all absent. We are still conscious in our dreams, even though we are asleep. It's a different form of consciousness. It's the consciousness we have when we're dead. Thought is dialectical and evolves out of itself. The thought of being open parenthesis close parent turns into the thought of nothing open parent antithesis close parent, and then, as a synthesis, into the thought of becoming, which then propels thought forever. The simplest thought dialectically transforms itself into the most complex thought of all. What happens when a monad contemplates itself? It is being, yet it is also nothing open parent zero, dimensionless close parent. and thus it becomes a mental entity of eternal becoming. It is becoming God. Qualia, what it actually feels like to be in a particular state of mind, to experience a particular state of mind. Materialism is inherently incapable of explaining this phenomenon of consciousness. Phenomenology. What is it? Karl Jaspers defined it as the science of experience. We can therefore relate it to qualia. How can materialism have anything to say about mental experience? Since when has materialism had anything to say about what it feels like to be human? Materialism is silent on all the important issues of life, mind and consciousness. Why does it continue to be treated seriously in the mental domain where it is so insufficient for the task? It has no means of exploring the inside of things. Materialism is all about the outside. Socrates said, "Imagine now that there are two ruling powers. One of them is set over the visible or physical world and the other over the invisible or mental world. Understanding and reason belong to the invisible or mental world. There abides the very being with which the knowledge is concerned, that colorless, formless, intangible essence visible only to the mind. The divine intelligence of souls is nourished from this pure knowledge. What bridges the gap between mind and matter? What's the interface between them? It's our senses. It's our senses that allow us to experience physicality. Our senses are what bring color, taste, smell, touch, sound, sensation and spectacle into our minds. A universe without sensing entities is a cemetery. It's drab, sterile, invisible, colorless, soundless, tasteless, odorless. It is really nothing at all. For a mind to engage with matter, sensory apparatus must evolve. Is there no way out of the mind? Sylvia Plath A substance is something that is unique and depends on nothing else for its existence. Each monad is unique and depends on nothing else for its existence, hence is a substance. Yet each monad also belongs to a general monadic substance in that it has the same general qualities as all other monads. DNA, the information pattern necessary for monads to interact productively with the material world through physical bodies. Kant believed he had affirmed the limits of human understanding with his noumenal/phenomenal dualism. However, his successors immediately overturned his model. Kant was a transcendental idealist, and he provides a summary of what this entails. We have therefore wanted to say that all our intuition is nothing but the representation of appearance, that the things that we intuit are not in themselves what we intuit them to be, nor are their relations so constituted in themselves as they appear to us, and that if we remove our own subject or even only the subjective constitution of the senses in general, then all constitution, all relations of objects in space and time, indeed space and time themselves would disappear, and as appearances they cannot exist in themselves, but only in us. What may be the case with objects in themselves and abstracted from all this receptivity of our sensibility remains entirely unknown to us. We are acquainted with nothing except our way of perceiving them, which is peculiar to us, and which therefore does not necessarily pertain to every being, though to be sure it pertains to every human being. We are concerned solely with this. Space and time are its pure forms, sensation in general its matter. We can cognize only the former a priori, that is, prior to all actual perception, and they are therefore called pure intuition. The latter, however, is that in our cognition that is responsible for its being called a posteriori cognition, that is, empirical intuition. The former adheres to our sensibility absolutely necessarily, whatever sort of sensations we may have, the latter can be very different. Schopenhauer said, "Transcendental is the philosophy that makes us aware of the fact that the first and essential laws of this world that are presented to us are rooted in our brain and are therefore known a priori. It is called transcendental because it goes beyond the whole given phantasmagoria to the origin thereof. In other words, transcendentalism goes beyond mere appearance to the underlying truth. The truth transcends our experiences. Illuminism can be called transcendental rationalism. It mathematically bridges the phenomenal and noumenal universes and renders the noumenal domain fully knowable. Open paren in agreement with Plato. Close paren. Rationalism is what allows us to escape from Kant's baffling noumenal domain. All mathematical knowledge is a priori. Mathematics is the precondition of experience. There can be no experiences without it. Satan, Lucifer and Abraxas. Satan: will, desire, greed, self-interest, selfishness, power over others, domination, bad empathy, immorality, vanity, narcissism. Open paren. Doesn't that sound like the denizens of Wall Street and Washington, D.C.? Close paren. Lucifer: altruism, sympathy, pity, morality, good empathy, equal power, community. Open paren. The Luciferians are the saints amongst us. Close paren. Abraxas: intellect, reason, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, intuition, imagination, amorality. Open paren. Not concerned with moral issues but with rational issues. Close paren. Power over oneself. Satan is the false god, the evil god. Lucifer is the god most people actually want to believe in. Open paren. If they did but know it. Close paren. The good god. Abraxas is the true god, the god of reason, philosophy, science and mathematics. The Mythos species worship Satan, but imagine him to be Lucifer. The Logos species aspire to join Abraxas in the community of gods. Will and intellect. Uncontrolled will pulls us down to the level of beasts. Will is associated with Satan. Intellect raises us up to the level of the divine. Intellect is associated with Abraxas. The chain of being: the world is conceived of as a chain extending from the humblest, most basic particle of inanimate matter all the way up to the supreme expression of actualization, God. The chain includes all the possibilities of existence. Everything in the chain has an inner striving to improve, to ascend the scale, to become more like God. Principle of plenitude. The notion that all possibilities are realized in the world: everything that can happen will happen. There are no unrealized potentialities. All potential is actualized. That being the case, if the universe is capable of a maximum realization of its potential: open paren. God. Close paren. Then God must exist, or at least be coming into existence. Creation. A concept that goes to the heart of the non-existence debate is creation. The Abrahamist religions explicitly declare that God made creation out of non-existence. Before creation, there was God alone. He was the entirety of existence. Now, if he had created the world from his own substance rather than out of nothing at all, it would mean that the universe was made of divine substance. Hence every part was godly. It would be a pantheistic universe, meaning that God was everything and everywhere. This would of course raise horrific theological issues in relation to the problem of evil. How can evil exist if everything is made of perfect God substance? Strangely, creationists condemn pantheism while nevertheless maintaining that God is everywhere. If he is indeed everywhere, then he must be where evil is occurring. So why isn't he stopping it? And indeed, why is it happening at all if he's there and he's morally perfect and incapable of evil? The creationist theologians are silent. Creationism says that God did not use his own substance to create the world, but rather he made it from non-God material that he summoned from non-existence. Nevertheless, all of this material was touched by him, created by him and processed by him, hence divine at one remove. So again we are confronted by how evil is possible in a world created by a perfect being from a substance that he himself devised and defined. Open paren. And, In any case, how can a perfect God create anything less than a perfect substance? There's no escaping the conclusion that God created evil, since he created everything. But how can a perfect being of perfect goodness create evil? It's impossible. Hence, the creationist God cannot exist. As soon as you observe one act of evil, you know there is no creator. The idea that evil is the absence of good, that evil is where God is never found, doesn't wash since God is everywhere. Creationism is an outright denial of the first law of thermodynamics, that energy can be neither created nor destroyed. If God made the world out of nothing, then he made energy exist that didn't exist before, and, by the same token, he can annihilate it. Therefore, he could certainly annihilate energy that had somehow become evil. The fact that he doesn't either means that he doesn't exist, or he condones evil and sees no reason to remove it. He is the god of evil, that is the devil. Creationism is nothing but an anti-scientific, satanic ideology. If God didn't create anything, then it means that all of the stuff of the world has always existed. It's immortal. It can never be destroyed. It means that everything we see around us is infinitely old and will endure eternally. We ourselves are infinitely old. It's true that energy, although incapable of being created or destroyed, can be endlessly transformed, and indeed the history of existence has been this perpetual process of energetic transformation, of eternal becoming. The scientific theory of the Big Bang also seems to be a creationist ideology. It suggests that the universe sprang from non-existence via some bizarre and spectacularly improbable quantum event that was subject to some equally bizarre inflation event that turned a virtual particle into a full-blown, perhaps infinitely large universe. Now that's some trick. It seems much more like creationist magic than science. Scientists account for the apparent violation of the first law of thermodynamics by claiming that the total energy of the universe is zero, and the positive energy of matter being exactly offset by negative gravitational energy. No thinking person is likely to find the current Big Bang theory persuasive. It may well have many correct features consistent with observation, but it needs to be radically recast to be rationally acceptable. One of the most pertinent points about the Big Bang is, why didn't it happen sooner? Are scientists claiming that there was no universe prior to this one? If so, what was happening infinitely long ago? Scientists will say such things as time and space didn't exist before the Big Bang, so it's meaningless to talk about what came before. Is that a satisfactory and coherent answer, or just anti-philosophical prevarication? Hegelian panlogism: logos is everywhere. All thoughts are, ultimately, the thoughts of a single mental substance that is evolving and developing towards the absolute, the final condition of perfection. The Christian Trinity: God the Son, Jesus Christ, God incarnate, matter; God the Father, God disincarnate, immaterial, pure mind; the Holy Spirit, mediating between Father and Son, between mind and matter. Another Trinity. Matter is an extended fluid, filling all of space. Spirit is an unextended fluid, ether, filling all of mental space. The individual mind mediates between the extended domain of matter and the unextended domain of spirit. Spirit is the collective mind, a mental fluid, while mind is localized, individualized spirit. Question: I discovered the Armageddon conspiracy site in December. I consider that moment the threshold of a major paradigm shift in my life. I have since completed about 2/3 of it and plan on reading every other publication released once I'm done with the site. I am intellectually ravenous with it. I rush home after work every day in almost giddy excitement to type in the URL and to discover what wonder of treasures I will discover with my next read. There are so many revelations that have utterly transformed my psyche. The alchemical process has begun. and while I understand that there is an oceanic horizon of where I am yet to go, the process hitherto made is practically infinite. I am certainly of the demographic you sought to expose this information to. I am an ENTP open parent, although after introspection I've come to realize that I have become significantly more introverted. This psychological rounding has, I've discovered, provided the impetus to immerse myself in your material, as while I previously sought external social stimulation on weekend nights, I now prefer to spend time alone reading. Of course, my mission to conquer all my internal insecurities, flaws, and socially constructed biases is far from complete, yet constantly progressing. I went to Catholic school as a child. I was the kid who never bought their disgusting crap for a second. As you can imagine, I was never a favorite student. Even in pre-pubescence, my incessant questioning and digging would produce stupid, unsatisfactory answers, and my rebuttals would keep probing their premises until all that was left was, well, that's where faith comes in. What the fuck? I was lucky enough to have an atheist father and a new-age spiritual mother, so robotic indoctrination wasn't a part of my early childhood, but I wonder, was it inherent in me genetically open parent or any other type of predetermining type of mechanism? Parent to be one to love philosophy and hate blind faith. Why was I at odds with the majority of the other students who just accepted these stupid doctrines? Of course, I found great satisfaction in reading the Outsider's article, as you would imagine. When I was a younger adult, I remember specifically being taught about Hegel, and the idea of thesis-antithesis-synthesis struck a very resounding chord. It was so intuitive in me. I remember later having an intellectual debate with a quintessential Ayn Rand worshipping a nacho-capitalist. At that time, I too was enthralled by Ayn Rand, but deep down I knew there was something profoundly missing in the assumption that what we've thus far accomplished could possibly be the pinnacle of what the potential humanity could fulfill. I remember his revolted response. He was intelligent insofar as his IQ was relatively high and was capable of utilizing Aristotelian logic effectively open parent in order to justify his preconceived notions, of course parent. But his response to my Hegelian proposal was that Marx himself was a fan of Hegel and that the dialectic is a communist ideology. I of course smelled the fallacy immediately that communism itself was merely an incomplete phase of the dialectic itself and not the teleological synthesis. It was at that moment I realized there was more to it all. I had read Atlas Shrugged and was utterly blown away by it initially. In retrospect, I see it as a spell cast on me. I have always been highly intelligent and logical, one to debate often and philosophize open parent. That's the ENTP in me parent. But I realized then that while I believed capitalism empowered individuals and was a hitherto superior system, that eventually humanity could dialectically evolve past it. Open parent. This was while I was still a fan of Mammon parent. Throughout my entire adult life, my ideological perspective on society has been a constant fluctuation. I have gone from a nacho-capitalist to communist and back more than once. Over this process, I began to refine my worldview to realize that all ideologies take certain subjective values into perspective while ignoring others, and that the particular will guides almost all people open parent automaton parent. This is why those born into the elite prefer to favor policies that perpetuate their perverse wealth, and those born into poverty favor government welfare policies. This realization was one of my first intellectual awakenings of discovering that the majority of people's psyches and worldviews are based on psychological constructs and not reminiscent of a reality that empowers humankind itself. Finally, each zeitgeist movie blew me away, and moving forward completely changed my worldview on capitalism. the shackles of Ayn Rand and Mammon were once and for all dispelled. Atlas Shrugged was a book that for a long time held enormous influence on my ideology. I considered it the best book I've ever read and the one that had had the greatest effect on me. To some credit, the book did inspire me to be the best person I could become. Open paren. Of course, the best of Mammon is not the same as the true Platonic best, which would assumingly be defined as gnosis. Close paren, and the book did sharpen my mind. Also, while the central tenet as well as the conclusions of Rand's work are actually evil and the antithesis of spiritual health, a few aspects of what Ayn Rand described, I believe, are worth at least respecting in isolation. Open paren. I don't wish to rouse any type of debate, but merely am curious to express a philosophical thought. Close paren. For example, the chapter Racism in the Virtue of Selfishness made the case against any judgment on a human being based on anything other than their merit. Also, while I disagreed with much of the New Intellectual, I thought her discussions of Attila and the witch doctor were interesting. Attila being a metaphor for those consumed by the mind set to destroy, and the witch doctor a metaphor for those who sought to control the minds of people with superstition. To me, these are different intellectual routes to a similar conclusion you have made: the evil of hegemony, of monarchic, dictatorial systems, and of religious institutions over the psychological. So, just as you mention that the Abrahamic doctrines, while fundamentally evil, have a few words of wisdom, so too did Ayn Rand in some respects. Of course, her completely blind disconnect from the fact that we are one is pathetic. I used to believe through this influence that there was no such thing as a forest, only trees. Of course, I realize now, not only is there a forest, there is the universe. Of course, this is merely a brief and greatly incomplete introduction to myself. I admit though that the sense of fulfillment on discovering this material was so vast that it's left me with an almost childlike awe. I truly feel like the entire holistic approach of psychology, history, math, science, spirituality and politics wove together a theory of everything that truly resounded with me on the deepest of levels. Coming from an atheistic/agnostic scientific rationalist background, the nihilistic gap to spirituality and intuitive truth has finally been bridged. Truly, my spirit has arrived at home. I bought a Kindle for the sole purpose of being able to download the many works released on Amazon, and I've already read the Kabbalion. I look forward to the immersion ahead of me. I have no idea what I will become, but I know I have reached the escape velocity, the threshold in which I can never return, and with it, meaning and purpose have begun to arise. There are of course a plethora of thoughts and questions yet I yearn to discuss, but I recognize it is not my place to do so until I am fully acquainted with all of your released material. But the true purpose I wanted to reach out prematurely was because I wanted to tell you about a book I've read, and the concepts it espouses. It's a book that, prior to really discovering exoteric spirituality and the massively corrupt world order, I spent a great portion of my time thinking about, and I bring it up to you because I've discovered interesting parallels. The idea is called the technological singularity, and one of its greatest proponents is Ray Kurzweil. It posits that due to the exponential increasing of technology, humans will begin to transcend their own biological limitations. When virtual reality and real reality become indistinguishable, when genome therapy both makes death obsolete and enhances our strengths, when we begin to replace our systems one by one with technological counterparts, open paren, eyes that see better, nanobots that stimulate our neurons, etc. close paren, and when artificial intelligence begets even more advanced, i.e. in a recurring function, we are to see an explosion of advancement. This is the singularity. Of course, the school of thought in this realm is inhabited, as far as I can tell, vastly by a purely scientific materialist, Non-spiritual open parent in the conventional sense closed parent crowd, mostly tech entrepreneur Silicon Valley types. However, the parallels are staggering, and, being someone who was slightly obsessed with this concept prior to discovering your site, this foundation allowed me to hit the ground running with Illuminism. For example, I already readily subscribed to the idea that humanity was merely a manifestation of the universe evolving into God, and that the boundaries of the mind, quantum physics, and the Big Bang were all forefronts of science, and that this final frontier was none other than knocking on heaven's door. Chapter 2 of Kurzweil's book, specifically, provides his philosophical theory on the universe, essentially making the case that the physical universe at its inception was purely simple matter, and that each particle actually contained information open paren mind closed paren, and that this simple information and the laws of physics allowed it to manifest over time into various stages: physics-chemistry-biology-brain-technology, and finally brain/technology fusion. In a stunningly intuitive stroke, Kurzweil, a man very much in the realm of scientific materialism, provides a theory close to reality, and with no desire to provide a spiritual answer. Granted, I did disagree with him on his theory about the final phase of the universe's evolution. He believes physical matter, in the form of a mega-computer if you will, would begin to convert dumb matter into intelligent matter ad infinitum, essentially espousing the grey goo theory, while I in turn believe that once we reach the singularity, the need for our spirituality to be confined in this realm would be transcended altogether. Of course, I approach you cautiously, as I know it's very likely you're well aware of this widely espoused idea open parent. There's even a university backed by one of Google's founders dedicated to it closed parent, and that my recommendation is largely redundant to you, but in the off-chance that I'm providing you an interesting and alternate perspective that could dialectically refine all available paths to your vision of humanity's future, I will feel good to know I've shared it with you. I have one final thought. I am thoroughly convinced a massive economic crash is looming. I have spent time truly wondering how practical overthrow of the hour would actually come about while the masses are numbingly content with their junk, and while the mainstream media propaganda machine continuously perpetuates the status quo dogmas that these masses masochistically accept. My conclusion, albeit a highly speculative one, is that this crash is what's actually needed to snap people out of it, to wake them up at the horrible condition of our current world order, and to incentivize the masses to finally act. Perhaps when the drones of people who hitherto were sedated by junk values wake up to a lost country, it will act as the final wake-up call to revolution. As a mere squire on my fool's journey, I just want to ask your opinion on this stance. Forgive my long-windedness, I still reside in a sea of wonder. I want to let you know that while you must and rightfully should be indignant towards the vast number of paranoid conspiracy theorists and pseudo-intellectuals that reply to you and perhaps have exemplified an unsatisfactory response to your communication project, even by touching the lives of a few, I believe the universe has been positively advanced in its dialectical evolution, as I am one of the few who click with it, and my own universe has done exactly so. Technological singularity refers to the hypothetical future emergence of greater-than human intelligence through technological means. Since the capabilities of such intelligence would be difficult for an unaided human mind to comprehend, the occurrence of a technological singularity is seen as an intellectual event horizon, beyond which events cannot be predicted or understood. Proponents of the singularity typically state that an intelligence explosion is a key factor of the singularity where superintelligences design successive generations of increasingly powerful minds. This hypothesized process of intelligent self-modification might occur very quickly, and might not stop until the agent's cognitive abilities greatly surpass that of any human. The term intelligence explosion is therefore sometimes used to refer to this scenario. The term was coined by science fiction writer Vernor Vinge, who argues that artificial intelligence, human biological enhancement or brain-computer interfaces could be possible causes of the singularity. The concept is popularized by futurists like Ray Kurzweil and is expected by proponents to occur sometime in the 21st century, although estimates do vary. Wikipedia. The technological singularity is essentially a scientific materialist version of Illuminism. It's for people who want to be God but are terrified of death and don't accept any possibility of an afterlife. Illuminism is about the universe being an organism evolving towards perfection, and all natural events open especially the birth, death again, death again, cycle are essential to this. We must die in order to become God, and when we actually become God we must die again. Divine suicide, because otherwise the universe would become frozen perfection, and frozen perfection inevitably becomes absolutism, hence hell itself. Scientific materialists want to skip the death part and to find a technological means of keeping their existing mind and consciousness intact, and to keep artificially enhancing it until it has godlike capacities. They are putting up technology against nature. Implicit in their approach is the idea that robots and humans are really the same, and that is an exceptionally controversial statement in philosophical terms. Their approach is anti-nature, and that's never going to work. It will create freaks and monsters, and probably madmen. It's a kind of Dr. Frankenstein vision of the future, except Frankenstein is engaged in attaching cybernetic parts to himself. The technological singularity is certainly worthy of consideration because of the issues it raises about human nature, but it's also exceptionally dangerous.